41 minutes. Think about it. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms up until they laid out the new timeline last night. That's a long time. And the sheriff is saying that there's additional DNA evidence that they're waiting on the results of. So clearly they did find something else inside that was DNA related. We just don't know what. Jonathan, let me start with you on that. It's a long time, 41.
Yeah, sure. And you know what this kind of points me towards, Megyn? First of all, we're putting so much attention. Everybody is looking at ransom, that it's easy to overlook the other possibilities. And the fact that you honed in on this is really good, the 41 minutes, because that could be the time period when somebody was looking for something. So they go into the house, there was no robbery, but were they looking for something else? Is there paperwork? Is there something going on that we don't know about with Miss Guthrie, and somebody was in there trying to find something in particular? Because I can't think of any other reason for them to be in there for that long. It's not like they're going to interrogate her before they kidnap her. So it would be a quick in and a quick out typically. So it almost appears just from this timeline that somebody may have been in there, and then perhaps she woke up and there was a scuffle and it took a dark turn. That has happened before. I've read case studies where that's occurred, and then they have to go down a different road. And in this case, it could be a fake ransom. So I'm not sure, but I think that this kind of alludes again to the fact that whoever was in that house had been there before. I just have this suspicious feeling, and that they were doing something other than just setting up to abduct an 80-year-old woman. So I think this is something that is causing me to pause for just a moment.
The reference to some unspecified DNA found inside of the house that's now being tested makes you wonder exactly what was it? You know, was it just they swiped the door handles and the windows and maybe Nancy's bedposts for touch DNA, or was it actual bodily fluids? Without putting too fine a point on it, it is the case that sometimes when you take someone's life, they'll relieve themselves. They'll lose whatever urine or feces are in their bodies, but not in every situation. But that would certainly, if there was any evidence of that, I feel like they'd be treating this case differently, Chad. I feel like they'd be talking about it differently, but I don't know, because his first move was to call in homicide detectives, and there was additional DNA inside that house.
Listen, I'm not one to hold back, and something that we haven't discussed, Megyn, is it possible that a sexual assault also took place? Again, I hate to even breach the topic, but is that a possibility? Listen, 2 counties over from where I am, 2 or 3 years ago, had the exact same situation. The only difference was this lady here was 89 years old, but it was a person on drugs, sexually assaulted her in the middle of the night, brutally murdered her. Now, she was still there, but is that a possibility? 100%. That's still a possibility. The thing is that when he says, you know, we are still processing DNA and being so vague, it could make us go down a rabbit hole. There's all sorts of options that we have.
What do you make of it all, Jim?
This was a clearly successful abduction. It was if it is a kidnapping, it's poorly undertaken. You don't spend 41 minutes as a kidnapper in the place where you're taking your victim. You get in and you get out, and that's why I'm leaning away somewhat. And a lot of the questions about this alleged, ransom letter, I know they're finally come back to be identical, but again, a successful abduction for whatever reason. Is it to hide evidence? 41 minutes, was there an argument of some sort? And I'm not going to point to family, but is it someone known to this woman? And they started having, interaction of some sort, and the person snapped out and hit her. Oh my God. Now, if it's a stranger, they leave the body there, get the heck out. If it's someone known to the woman, what do I do now? They better take that body and put it somewhere else. Or if she's still alive, who knows what condition she's in, but I got to somehow remove her from the scene. So that 41 minutes does open, assuming that number is correct, and it doesn't change on us again, Megyn, that's going to be very critical there. So again, a successful abduction, But a poorly run kidnapping at this point, and I have other examples we can talk about of other kidnappings down the line here today, but it's just not being run very efficiently or effectively so far. If their ultimate goal was to get money out of this case, unless there's a lot of things, the mitigating circumstance will be things that we're not learning from law enforcement. But successful abduction, not a good.
And yet
kidnapping.
it doesn't look like a full lunatic, because they did think to get the Ring cameras, or they were Nest cameras, and apparently managed to do that without, getting caught. I realized that those were not subscription cameras, so maybe the images were on there, but just were written over. That's what the sheriff said happens with these cameras when you don't have the subscription service. By the way, get the subscription service. I don't think most of us fully understood, that was a thing, but you got to get the subscription service, because it's useless to you in solving crime if it just rewrites every couple of hours, as the sheriff said, or writes over itself.
Like $100 a year.
I do want to talk about. I want to talk about the ransom notes in a second, but I got to be honest. I'm with you guys. I'm not totally intrigued by the ransom notes, because I don't believe personally that they're from the real kidnapper. Though I could totally be wrong, because the more I listen to Harvey Levin, the more I think he's starting to believe that they actually are from the hostage taker. But we'll get to those in one second. I just want to stay on a couple of the items that we discussed with Ashley too. How about the change in the timeline on Sunday morning, guys? I talked about this a bit with Chad yesterday, but I didn't get to talk to you other guys about it. It was, as we played from the sheriff, I don't know if you guys heard this, but the sheriff had been saying all week that it was an hour delay, that the family had been called by a constituent at the church. I'm reading here. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has said a congregant called Nancy's family at 11 a.m. on Sunday. This is the Daily Mail reporting. A congregant called Nancy's family at 11 a.m. on Sunday after she failed to arrive at church. And then we played the sheriff on camera this week repeatedly saying that, putting the time around 11:10, that the family got notified and got over to Nancy's house, either notified at 11:10 or there at Nancy's house. They live only a couple minutes down the road. And then suddenly yesterday, it's completely changed to, no, the family discovered her missing at 11:56 a.m., discovered her missing, and then within 7 minutes, called 911. Now, that to me seems like a rather large thing to have wrong, like when the family discovered that she wasn't there. And coupled with the new information that Nancy, now this could turn out to be wrong too, a lot of things have, but that apparently Nancy was not going physically to church. She wasn't going to church. The Daily Mail spoke with a woman who said, hold on, I'm finding my quote here. Let's see. A fellow congregant at Nancy's church, reading from the Daily Mail in Tucson, was initially reported to have alerted her family that she failed to attend the morning service on Sunday. Curiously, however, a source has now told the Daily Mail that the elderly mother of the Today Show host had not been at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church for years. Ever since the COVID pandemic, she has been worshiping online. It is understood that St. Andrews did not have a large-scale Zoom call for online viewing as some religious organizations do. Instead, the church's 9 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. services on Sunday are live streamed, and it is impossible for other participants to know who else is watching. Now, the church responded by saying, all we can tell you is that Nancy has been a member here for many years. She is part of our community and we love her, said Ed Coates, administrative assistant at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. Quote, we're praying for her. And that's really all we have to say right now. I'm sure the media will know before we will, how the story unfolds, but we are praying for her safety and praying for her family. So this was her church. The Daily Mail and also Brian Enton reporting that she had not been to this church physically for years. So how could a congregant have noticed she wasn't there and called the family to report it on Sunday morning?
Whenever I hear these things, Megyn, first of all, this timeline, I'm looking at it as you're talking, I'm going through it, and it's a little odd. The timeline that we have versus the verbiage of the sheriff before is different. And there's some things like the camera detecting or being disconnected and then detecting movement. There's some things there that don't make sense. It could be easily explained, but they don't make sense. But I would like to know who the person is that reported this to the family, okay?
Who called the family?
Right. Because
yes, same.
If she's not on known to be there or to be on camera? Who was it that suspected it? Is it somebody that she usually talks to while she's on there and they said, oh, and they're just not telling us that? That would make sense. And perhaps it's that simple. But if the church or somebody's reporting that there's no way to know if she's online, yet somebody comes up with information that she's not there, then who was that person and how did they have that information? So there's these things, and also the timeline of the family. This reminds me, again, of Idaho, where, they found all this crazy stuff, and instead of calling police immediately, they called a bunch of friends over to decide what to do next. And so if the family went there and discovered that she wasn't there, and it took that long for them to notify police, if the first timeline that the sheriffs went over is correct, that is also very suspicious to me. Why you would get there and take that long to call police when apparently it was odd enough for you to go over there and check in the first place.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There is a never-ending list of reasons that gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it's a crucial part of a balanced strategy. It gives you peace of mind, given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider letting Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, so you too can have peace of mind regardless of the uncertainty. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.